everyone. Welcome. Good evening. Before I officially call this meeting to order, we'll take a moment to run through the agenda just so that we're all on the same page. Kim is ready in the BevCam booth. Thank you, Kim, making sure that we're streaming and available for those who may not be able to be in person but are wanting to follow along. Thank you, BevCam, for that. So tonight, this is a special meeting, so the agenda is a bit more narrow than a regular meeting. We'll be beginning with a public hearing. This is the public hearing on Mayor Cahill's proposed FY25 budget. You'll hear me say this several more times, but those who are looking to sign up to speak in this public hearing, the sign-up sheet is on the table near that window, sort of past Councilors Houseman and St. Hilaire, and you can get up and add your name. We will take speakers in the order they're signed up. Then we have just a few other quick routine business items, housekeeping that we'll take care of. We will then break for finance, the Subcommittee of Finance and Property and Committee of the Whole for that subcommittee's final vote on the budget to send it back out to the full council. And then we will come back to adjourn the whole thing, and we'll be back to take this up further, the budget specifically, on the 18th. So with that, I'll officially call to order this special meeting of the Beverly City Council, Thursday, June 13th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Ms. Kent, will you please call the roll?
Bowen? Here. Crowley? Here. Feldman? Here. Houseman?
You can be both.
Rotundo? Bang? St. Hilaire? Sweeney? And Flowers.
I'm here. Thank you very much, Ms. Kent. Councilor Bowen, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Councilor Bowen. So we are going to go right to our public hearing. I know some folks have signed up, and we may have a few others, so we will, I'll leave the sign-up sheet turned around over here in front of Councilor Bowen and me. So I will repeat that with the public hearing, anyone who would like to sign up to speak, the sign-up sheet is here. I will be taking speakers in the order they are signed up. You can come forward and add your name if you have not already. We do limit to 3 minutes per speaker. That's to make sure that it's equitable and each person gets to be heard. And Vice President Crowley will be our timekeeper. We'll come back to that. I'll reiterate that as well. And as we get into this public hearing, this is a step in what's been a budget process. Thank you to Finance and Property Chair, Councilor St. Hilaire, who's been leading us throughout this month through that process in the subcommittee context. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor St. Hilaire has led us in hearing from department heads, asking questions, having conversation. And as I said, this is a step in the process that will continue through the 18th. So with that, we'll open the posted public hearing on Order 161. This is Mayor Cahill's proposed FY25 budget. I guess that's all there is to say about that one. Okay. So we'll go to members of the public to begin, and then, as I said, I'll have the sign-up sheet here so people can still come up and sign up. We will go with the order that people have signed up, and that means that Paul Drake will be first. I'll invite you to go to the podium at the back. Yes. And if you would begin with your name and address for the record, and as I mentioned, all speakers will have up to 3 minutes, and when you hear the timer go off, Councilor Crowley's timer go off, if you would just draw your remarks to a close at that point.
I see you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Drake.
Thank you so much. I'm just really happy the city's again, hosting its public budget hearing for us to win. My name is Paul Drake. I live at 8 Bartlett Street here in Beverly. I'm a para-professional at Centerville Elementary School, and I'm here to commend the school committee budget to the city council. I'm confident, and I hope that most or all of you did watch the school committee hearing where we had 78 educators and supporters speak as to the realities facing educators and the students in our schools. And I think just to sum up, I feel like we're having a really big moment as a city. I think this is a moment of growth, and it comes with some growing pains. And what was shared at that hearing that I can just try to summarize is there's just a lot of pain right now in the lives of educators in our classroom and outside because of the limitations that we're faced with, whether it's regarding salary, whether it's regarding staffing levels, which I spoke about last year at this hearing. And there's been so many things that people have just been hanging on to and white knuckling, and we need to have more conversations. But all of it's coming to a head right now, and that's sort of where we're at. And so it was really encouraging to see the school committee vote forward a budget that had an extra 1.5 million, which sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money. And it's, to me, a sign that, hello? It's a sign that, sorry, I think it was too far from the mic. I think it's a sign that the city is now coming to grips with the realities that that is, what it means to work in the public schools. I think that is a sign of hope. And I'm hopeful that this council will see fit to maintain and not make any additional cuts, seeing as there are already some cuts that are a little hard to sort of swallow in the budget, such as we're not going to have a librarian at any of the elementary schools after this, and there was a lot of discussion at that hearing that the school committee did, but any person I talk to about a cut like that is just kind of astounded that that's the move that we're making in a community that is clearly not poor. And so I would hope that this council would not make any more errors like that. I just can't imagine going back to what it was like to have an all-volunteer system here in Beverly Public Schools for elementary schools. Counselor, how am I doing on time? I'm good? I can keep going? All right. Everyone, you guys are all like, oh man. But no, budgets are hard work, and they are. And when y'all are sitting there and you're balancing all the priorities, I think everyone in the schools get that, because that's what our educators do. When I watch what our educators do in terms of budgeting time and effort, they have like 5 jobs. I don't know how they pack it all in. They take their work home with them. I'm assuming that means you won something. That has nothing to do with my time limit, right? But I just wanted to just close with the idea that as committed as y'all are, these are numbers on a page for you, but these literally define our day-to-day lives. They define our children's lives. And so I just really encourage you to say yes to the school committee budget and make no cuts. And I really thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Drake. And Vice President Crowley, I'm happy that you won something. Congratulations. Thank you. I know that some folks are just joining us, so I'll just reiterate before I go to our next speaker who signed up that for members of the public who wish to speak in the public hearing, I know it may feel odd to come up while someone's speaking at the podium, but you really can. The sign-up sheet will be here between Councilor Bowen and me, and if you want to add your name, you can, and we'll keep going in the order that folks are signed up. The next speaker who signed up is George Gomes. And so, Mr. Gomes, you as well, if you would begin with your name and address for the record, and then when you hear Councilor Crowley's timer, that will signal if you could draw your remarks to a close. Thank you.
Thank you. George Gomes, 63 Bridge Street, Apartment 2. Really appreciate the opportunity to comment tonight, and I've been watching online on YouTube all the budget hearings, and I really appreciate all the work you guys have been putting into this and the thoughtful comments, and also, it's just apparent the countless hours of staff work that goes into all that. I've been watching at 1.75 speed so that it's a little bit quicker for me. I highly recommend that to my fellow citizens. We think of Beverly as being this small community, and in a lot of ways it is, but it's also a $166 million enterprise if you guys vote for this budget. It's a really complicated animal, and there's a lot of moving parts, and it makes really important impacts in people's lives, and I think that's important, and it's important to recognize all the professionalism that went into not only constructing the budgets, but also, as Mr. Drake said, the work that goes in, day out in our schools, in our public services, police, fire, Board of Health, the airport, the library, the things you don't necessarily think about on a day-to-day basis. It's obvious that no one has a full grasp, except maybe 2 guys over here, in terms of the complexity of this budget. But I want to make some kind of just general comments. I think the budget this year is good, and what I keep on hearing, especially from Mr. Perry, is that we're kind of going towards this looming, maybe crisis is a strong word, but we have these real decision points coming towards us, and there are a lot of reasons for that, and the vast majority of those are out of your hands, right? healthcare costs are going up, and that's for everybody. Wages are going up. Inflation on materials. Mr. Collins talking about how much it costs to pave a street, that and how much that's changed in recent years. And these are the things that impact people's lives, but make this job so much harder. There are a couple things that we do have, the ability to impact, and limited by Prop 2.5 in terms of how much we can increase revenues. And I know we have the excess levy capacity that we're tapping this year, but there's a real ceiling on that. And the only way to raise that ceiling is new growth. And it's something that those of you who know me know I'm fairly passionate about, but I also think it's, something that's really important for us to think about as a tool and not as a burden to be mitigated, right? The only way that we're going to get past a 2.5% growth rate, as we're looking at wages, as we're looking at health insurance costs go up much faster than that, is by increasing the overall pie. I know a lot of people are concerned about the sort of the burdens, the impacts of new growth, and we'll just say housing, right? I think we need more housing. But I think those are generally vastly overstated, and particularly overstated when it comes to the impact on schools, which, as you all know, is the biggest piece of our budget and is one of the faster growing pieces, right? So it's kind of a double whammy on that front. I honestly think we're facing a question at some point. I will wrap up. Are we talking about more neighbors or fewer teachers? And I know how I would answer that question. And I would encourage all of you to think about that, maybe not for this budget, but going forward, because I really do think that's kind of the moral question we're looking at a certain point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomes. Those are the only two names on the sign-up list. Are there other members of the public who wish to speak? It looks like yes. Thank you. So while we have folks signing up, I'll do something I was remiss in not doing before, which is just recognizing some of our city staff and others in the room. We have our city council budget analyst, Mr. Jerry Perry, is here with us this evening. Thank you, Mr. Perry. Our city finance director, Mr. Brian Ailes. Thank you, Mr. Ailes. Dylan Benson, paralegal from the solicitor's office, as well as Stephanie Williams, our city solicitor. Thank you both for being here. And I note that Ward 6 School Committee member Lorinda Visnick is here in her familiar back row seat. Thank you for being with us, Ms. Visnick. And so thank you, members of the public, for giving us your time and coming out to participate as well. So our next speaker is Matt. Help me with your last name. Bond. Okay, thank you. That's not your spelling. That's just my my bad reading.
Okay. It's also my left-handedness.
I'm also left-handed, so solidarity for that. If you, there we go. If you also would begin with your name and address, although we just sort of went through that, but for the record, and then when you hear Councillor Crowley's timer go off, if you also would draw your remarks to a close, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Matt Bond, 78 Water Street. I didn't know I could speak tonight. I just came sort of with solidarity with my teacher friends. But I was moved by something that I got this afternoon from a coworker. And so I guess not only am I going to speak for myself, but also his concerns are mine too. And I wish I had it. He wrote me a very moving piece that he wanted to send to school committee about how he loves, born and raised, Beverly. Always wanted to be a teacher in Beverly. Went into this sort of social contract of becoming a teacher with the promise of at least, a working wage. And he illustrates in his postcard or laments that he can't afford to live in the city that he loves, that he works in, that he tries to better every day without substantial assistance. I also want to reiterate a point that I tried to make earlier about not only arguing for myself, but also all of our collective futures, and that we're locked at a wage that is challenging. And the social contract that we have, if we try to move on with this wage and we're locked into it, then we're locked into a future at this also wage that puts us reliant on other sources. And some of the level that we're compensated at now makes it really hard to even self-invest in some of these other sources. So, but I'd like to get back to my friend's email or friend's comment that he loves this city, and he wants to continue to give back to it, and he wants to feel supported in it. And so, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bond. Next, correct order, Julia Brotherton. If you would begin with your name and address for the record, and then you as well, when you hear Vice President Crowley's timer, if you would just draw your remarks to a close. Thank you.
Hi, Julia Brotherton, 78 Water Street. I'm the president of the Beverly Teachers Association and a teacher at Beverly High School. I'm just here, first of all, to express my admiration for all of you and your hard work as city councilors. I know you have a lot of different competing demands to balance, but of course I'm here to urge you to pass the full budget that the school committee has sent to you. The additional funding that the school committee added a couple weeks ago is indeed historic, but I'm also here to tell you that one of the reasons it's historic is that Beverly teachers, compared to people in other parts of the region, are actually underpaid. So we're going to be asking you to make another historic investment going forward, but this is a really good start. Beverly teachers, if you look at any metric, you'll see that our wages are way below those of people in our neighboring districts, and we are losing teachers to other districts who go there to get higher wages. And as my colleague Mr. Bond said, we also need to make sure we can pay teachers enough to stay living in Beverly or to move to Beverly if they want to. So again, I'm here to urge you to pass the full budget this year, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brotherton. Our next speaker signed up is Drew Redmond. You may be tired of hearing me say this by now, but if you would begin with your name and address for the record,
Sure.
and then you also have up to 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Drew Redmond. I live at also 78 Water Street. I've been a teacher in Beverly for 22 years. I was raised in Beverly from the time I was 3 years old. My mom still lives here. My brother, my nieces, my nephews. I chose to bring my daughter to school here because I truly believe that Beverly Public Schools are great. And we made that choice, and I'm happy with that choice. I'm unhappy with some other things because, as Julia said, and my other colleagues, and I know you've heard from many people, I don't want to lose the best and the brightest people that we have to teach our children to other communities because I don't think they're better than us. And I don't want them to be better than us. And we have that competition thing going where, we are a great city and I love it here. I don't live here, but I do love it here. I live here most of the time. And I believe that funding the budget will help all of us be successful. I see young teachers come and they're bright and they're energetic and they have new ideas and then they leave. And it's really sad to see them leave. And even more so from a veteran teacher who teaches in an unleveled environment where I have students from severe special needs to high-flying AP students, sometimes in the same class. The paras that we have are invaluable to what we do and what we pay them is gross. And to keep them and to have them support us is just the best thing for the kids of Beverly. Sometimes they're the only cheerleader, the only person that person can count on, and without them, I couldn't do my job. And I just feel like they're underappreciated and undervalued, and we need to show them that they are valued and that they should be given a living wage, and it's just not fair, and I know that's part of your budget. It's not what you can do specifically, but when you fund a full school budget, that's what you're gonna do. So I appreciate your hard work. I know that you appreciate ours, and I hope that you put that in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Redmond. Are there any other members of the public? If you're standing because you are another member of the public who wishes to speak, yes, you can go ahead to the podium. Begin with your name and address for the record, please, and then you also have up to 3 minutes.
That's sign language. Well, should I go around that way and put my name on the
I actually
list?
understood it.
I appreciate that. My name is Laura Noviznik. I live at 39 Middlebury Lane. I was not going to speak this evening. However, the two gentlemen who spoke before I spoke really inspired me to get up here, and I wish to follow up on things that they both said. Namely, I have two recent graduates with master's degrees who cannot afford to live here. One is an architect and one is a civil engineer. I'm desperately trying to get them to come here and fix our bridges. That's a whole nother matter. We have some control over one piece of the multiple pressures on the budget, that being housing. It's a supply and demand issue, and as long as we are in a housing crisis, the a housing crisis. The prices of real estate will continue to be very high, and as long as that is true, we will continue to struggle to pay our city employers or any of our workers that want to live here and work here what might be considered a livable wage. There's a lot of data around wealth inequality and how much it's grown since the 1980s. Things like minimum wage have not kept up with inflation. There are many things that are truly outside of our control, but one thing that is within our control is whether we try to release that incredible pressure within the housing crisis. And I wish to thank all of you for all your hard work. I think ADUs by right, clearly you're a leader, right? The state of Massachusetts is now trying to do that. That's one little piece, and there are other pieces that are available. And if I cannot speak for the school committee, but somewhat wearing a school committee hat, if I could put my teachers in a place that they could live nearby, right here in Beverly, ideally, that was not nearly as expensive, then we wouldn't have this incredible pressure to pay them that much more money. So I just really want to pound on the housing issue. And I want to say, too, for those of you who don't know, this issue is so important to me that, excuse me, I'm going back to school. I'm not just trying to stand here and wave my finger at you and tell you to fix something that you maybe don't know how to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Visnick. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak in this public hearing? Mr. Perry, before I close the hearing portion and refer it back to Finance and Property, was there anything that you wanted to add or comment during the public hearing component?
Not at this time. I think I've spoken enough, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions, I guess.
Thank you. Mr. Ailes, same question for you. You've also spoken enough. Okay, everyone feels they've spoken enough. So, councilors, we will have time to have conversation about this specifically. As I mentioned, on the 18th, that will be our final vote on the budget. We've had discussions, so I think at this point, unless there are specific questions for Mr. Perry or Mr. Ailes, we don't need to have that within the context of this public hearing further. But if there are any specific questions, I'll take them. Okay. With that, we'll close the public hearing on Order 161. We'll refer that back to the Committee on Finance and Property. And as I mentioned at the start of our meeting, that subcommittee and Committee of the Whole will have a chance to take some further action and next step in the process this evening as well. Before we get to that, we have just a little bit of housekeeping work on this agenda. Ms. Kent, let's go to communications. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Before that, I do want to say thank you to all the members of the public who came tonight, who spoke, who are here, or who are following on BevCam, have been following the process. It's always really important to have that public engagement, and your time is valuable. You're all busy, and so the fact that you gave some of it to be here with us or to follow on BevCam is much appreciated. With that, Ms. Kent, let's go to communications from His Honor the Mayor, please.
Order number 181, approval of an appropriation request for professional services related to Massachusetts contingency plan support for petroleum hydrocarbon release at the Beverly Regional Airport.
This is just to set a public hearing, councilors. I would entertain a motion to set a public hearing for our regular meeting on June 17th at 8:30 p.m.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. That carries 8-0. So we'll have that as part of our regular meeting agenda on the 17th of June. And that is our final regular meeting before the summer break as well. And then I would entertain a motion to accept a late file from the mayor on Order 182 for an appointment. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries 8-0. Ms. Kent, Order 182.
Order 182, an appointment for Eric Knudsen, 8 Baker Ave, to serve on the Human Rights Committee.
Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs. Let's go to motions and orders. We have two. One is Order 161, which we just had the public hearing on, so we'll be coming back to that in the context of subcommittee. But Ms. Kent, we also have Order 175.
Order number 175 be entertained by the City Council of the City of Beverly as follows. Amend Section 124, Boating and Waterways regarding the regulation of vessels and activities within the harbor, waterways, and tidal waters in the City of Beverly that are under the jurisdiction of the Beverly Harbor Master. Specifically, the amendment regulates the operation of vessels, the removal of obstructions, the reporting of accidents involving vessels in Glover Wharf, in addition to requiring annual harbor master permits and mooring permits, and further details the enforcement of this section and the penalties for violation. And the full order of 175 could be seen online or in my office at the city clerk's office. And this was in the newspaper on June 7th.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kent. Councilors, this is available for a first vote this evening. I do see members of our solicitor's office team. I mentioned two, but also want to just mention that our assistant city solicitors, Jesse Dole and Bethel Vixen, have joined us. Thank you. Solicitor Williams, I'm not sure if anyone from your office wanted to be able to speak about this before we take a first vote. Okay, thank you. Councilors, there a motion to approve Order 175 for a first vote? Is there any further discussion or questions? Councilor Bowen.
See if I can get that on. Thank you. I was just wondering, in terms of the timing, is the goal for these to be in place for this summer season? So sort of with the intention that we ask any final questions before our Monday or Tuesday meeting and try and get it through the process, or?
Yes, Jesse Dole, Assistant City Solicitor. There is somewhat of a necessity that these be voted on before the end of this fiscal year, which is why we're trying to get this in at the last couple meetings.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Bowen. Great question. Any other questions? Councilor Houseman, and welcome back.
Thank you very much.
If you, yes.
Yes, thank you. If I could just add for a moment to Solicitor Dole's response. So there's an issue that boiled up last summer related to the definition of slips, moorings, and dockage. And part of the purpose of this legislation, this revised regulation, is to clarify some of the ambiguities that relate to that, because right now the Harbor Master's Office is losing a lot of revenue because they're not charging certain fees as a result of some of these ambiguities that exist presently.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions or comments on 175 at this time? Okay, as I mentioned, this is a first vote, and Councilor Bowen astutely noted that it will be available for a second vote at our next meeting on the 17th. So there can be further questions at that point if they arise. But we have a motion and a second, so all those in favor of approving Order 175 for a first vote? Thank you. That's 8-0 on that first vote. Thank you very much, councilors. I would entertain a motion for us now to shift to Subcommittee on Finance and Property and Committee of the Whole. All those in favor? Thank you. So we will put the full council into recess and we'll switch to Finance and Property, and Councilor St. Hilaire will come over and take place as chair. Thank you.
All right, there we go. Good evening. Call to order Committee on Finance and Property and Committee of the Whole. Here tonight just to take up Order 161, the Mayor's proposed FY25 budget. So I guess before we do, I just wanted to thank Mayor Cahill, Finance Director Brian Ailes, our budget analyst Jerry Perry, all the city department heads that came before us. A lot of time goes into preparing the budget, presenting it to us, answering our questions. We do appreciate it, and hope we didn't put you through the ringer too bad. Want to thank the administration also for delivering on their commitment on providing the ClearGov digital budgeting details again this year. This has been a big improvement, I think, in the way we are able to digest the data and also for the public to have access to it. So I want to thank you for that. You know, I think, you know, as we discussed, you know, we're going to have some further discussion on the budget. So at this point, I'm going to hold my comments there and would recommend that we discuss possibly just moving forward with presenting this out to the full council tonight. How do you guys feel about that? Counselor?
Thanks, Scott. I guess it's going to be a quick comment anyways, Mr. Chairman, so thank you.
Yeah.
I certainly like to have a longer discussion and potential in the process, so I want to make that clear, but it was my understanding that there was a request by to essentially just continue the budget along to the full council. I'm comfortable doing that, voting to approve it out of subcommittee and reserving the larger discussion for the full council.
Mr. Perry, would you enlighten us here on how this process?
Sure, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Yeah, as early as this week, it was suggested by the administration they'd like to come before you Monday night to give you more more information as it relates to this budget in general. As your budget analyst, I would recommend to the committee tonight to forward the budget as is to the council as a whole for next Tuesday night. That certainly allows you to do what you want, make amendments, you know, whatever you want to do is still on the table. But from my perspective, I think it'd be a wise decision to hear what the administration has to say Monday night so that whatever decisions you make Tuesday night, you're more informed, you have a better concept of what's going on. So that would be my recommendation. And Mr. Chairman, I know we talked about it. It's your prerogative, of course. When I first started here years ago, they used to do line item by line item. You certainly, on a parliamentary procedure, your committee could entertain a motion to accept the mayor's budget as proposed, have it seconded, and you can move on. But again, that's your decision. But in the time, and I just like the idea of you just proposing the whole budget, but of course, that's up to all of you. So I wanted to share that with you. Beyond that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. Thank you, Mr. Perry, and with that, I'm comfortable moving it through subcommittee.
Anything, Councilor?
I'll just add on that I agree with Councilor Sweeney and also with you, Mr. Chair, that given that we will have time on the 18th, when we take the final vote for all councilors to offer their thoughts, opinions, and for us to dig into it further, I don't have any discomfort with the subcommittee moving it out for that process.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So with that, I would entertain a motion that we approve the mayor's proposed FY25 budget as is, Order 161.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved 3-0. Okay, I think that's the only business we have tonight, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn the Committee on Finance and Property.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And entertain a motion to adjourn, or shall I keep that open?
You can adjourn committee of the whole and then we'll.
Entertain a motion to adjourn Committee of the Whole.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. End of our special meeting agenda. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for your leadership of the Finance and Property Subcommittee. As members of the public have heard us say a few times now this evening, we have our final regular meeting before the summer recess on Monday the 17th. It's quite a full agenda, as the last regular meeting tends to be, with some public hearings and other business that we'll be attending to. BevCam will be making sure that it's accessible. Thank you, Kim, for everyone who would like to follow along but can't be with us in person. And then we will meet again on the 18th, and that will be for that final consideration of the budget and have a chance to really dig into that at that point for any final possible amendments and votes. Are there any other announcements or reminders from counselors before we adjourn the full council? All right, well, with that, I will say again, thank you to BevCam. Thank you to members of the public for following this whole process, whether you've done it here, you've done it on BevCam, or a combination. Thanks for being here this evening, giving us your time and sharing your words. Thanks, as others have said, thanks to city staff and members of the administration for work on preparing this proposed budget and for being here throughout the month answering our questions. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Thank you very much. That's 8-0, and we are adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.